I got this in a long time ago, the TrimUI Smart Pro S, and I haven't really had a chance to look at it, so I thought we could just take a closer look at it. Kind of more of a casual review. Is this the modern budget PSP that people are waiting for? Not really sure, but let's take a closer look at it and find out. So let's hop in. If you're interested in getting the TrimUI Smart Pro S, make sure to check out the link in the description. This was sent over from LitNXT, but as with all my reviews, the company is not seeing this video beforehand. They have no input into what I'm saying, and I'm here to give you my honest thoughts to what I think about it. You can get this for $99 US on LitNXT's website, but they usually do have coupon codes as well. You can get this in vintage gray, black, white, yellow. This is the red option, of course, which I think looks incredible, and green. They also sell this with a couple different bundles to save a little bit, and you can get this with a custom OS card. One thing I liked about the old TrimUI Smart Pro S was just the overall design. It's a small handheld, but because it's so thin, it's also really easy to fit into your pocket. I guess my first impressions, it's not too bad. It does feel a little hollow, but really no different than the last one they had. Not that it feels cheap. I guess my best way to explain it is it feels fine. You gotta remember that this is a $99 handheld. It's not meant to be flagship level quality, but it's also not meant to be cheap, and I think it hits that middle ground perfectly. The plastic isn't too smeary, but it does pick up just a few fingerprints. One thing that TrimUI does really good is their controls. Kind of goes over really good with this model too. Get a nice soft click D-pad, kind of fun, I like that. These are really good in the fact that you won't get any false diagonals. You still get that same click on the function buttons, and of course on the face buttons too. Kind of like a hollow click on these. Little different than the D-pad, but both really good. The triggers are just digital, not analog triggers. So unfortunately, some Dreamcast games like Sega Marine Fishing, you're only going to be able to reel in really fast. The bumpers are also clicky, but not too loud. I don't think this is going to be bothersome, especially in like a cafe. On the top, you got your two volume buttons as well, and a USB-C host output, as well as the home button and a power button. There's some subtle branding on the back. I really like TrimUI's branding. It's very minimalistic. It's not an in-your-face branding. It's nice. You also have your select and start on the front in the bottom right corner, and these two recessed joysticks. One of the standout features of this handheld is that you can put this in your pocket without worrying that these are going to snag. On the bottom, of course, you got your function button, which you can customize to a few different things. Not sure what this is. It almost looks like a proprietary port. Kind of makes me wonder if they used this for programming. Then of course you got the USB-C for charging only, a reset button, which is kind of nice, your micro SD card slot, 3.5mm headphone jack, and of course the microphone. I guess the key takeaway from me anyways, looking at this, is I really like the design. The design is so clean. The build is excellent, and I love this color. The next kind of thing that I think stands out is just the size. It's not huge, but it's not small. It's big enough that you're going to be able to enjoy your games on it, especially retro stuff. It's not too small. It's kind of in that Goldilocks zone for retro content. It's nearly the same size as another community favorite, the Retroid Pocket G2 or the Retroid Pocket 5. They say they share the same shell. Wow, that's hard to say fast. Share the same shell. Wow. This has really good ergonomics. I like these rounded edges. They fit perfectly into the palm of your hand. They're not sharp, and it's a smooth plastic, so it's easy to grip onto. If you're playing D-pad centric games, this is also perfectly positioned for the D-pad. It is kind of awkward to use the joystick because you almost have to position your hands a little further down. That means that the overall ergonomics are definitely aimed at retro stuff, but it is nice in a pinch if you need to use these joysticks, and they're pretty decent joysticks too. They don't have a lot of range, but if you use the original Vita, you know exactly what these feel like. The best joysticks on a retro handheld definitely have to be the Magmi Pocket Max. And then I guess maybe the Odin 3 would be second place. These are not on the top of my list for ergonomics or usability, but they're okay. So I guess let's turn it on and check it out. It's funny because the last TrimUI Smart Pro that I used, it worked really well for a long time, but then I got little dots all over the screen. I think this panel is better than the last one that I had, and I've never had any issues with the TrimUI Brick or the TrimUI Hammer. These are actually my go-to pocket devices if I want something quick, something that I can just put in my pocket and go. I guess it's going to be either one of these devices. The reason that I think this device exists is for people that want something horizontal, something more for like Game Boy Advance or Sega Genesis, something with a little bit bigger screen. This is still pocketable, but these are even more so. But if you're interested in something smaller, definitely check out my reviews on these. I love those devices. Starting it up, you come out to this interface here. Loads you up to the best games. These are just preset collections that I guess came on my card. You got Bomberman, Castlevania, classic games, Earthbound, Famicom multi-cartridges, Fire Emblem, and nostalgic games. Let's go all the way to the first menu by pressing the left bumper. You got your favorites menu. You can mark any of your games in your favorites on this one. Your recent games, which shows all of course the games that you played recently. These are those preset collections. The game tab shows every single system you have on your device. This is just what came on mine with one of the Lit NXT cards. Then of course you got the ports menu. Then of course the apps menu. It's basically the same OS and interface that you saw on the TrimUI Brick and the TrimUI Hammer. You can also go into RetroArch just to configure some of the settings on this menu, a net play button, and then of course the display button. I like to set the display to 10 for brightness. I also don't like using the LEDs. You can configure the brightness here too and the screen lock time. There's a volume button here which allows me to adjust the background music, and you can enable the keytone. The rumble, it can also be configured here, but it sounds really hollow. I'd just rather set this to 1 for like a subtle rumble. I'm just going to shut it off. You can also use Wi-Fi on this one and configure a hotspot for local multiplayer. You also have Bluetooth and a couple different theme options. This one looks kind of cool. Let's use this. Matches the color of the device a little better. You can also adjust the key map settings here. Not really sure what this is. Rotate 270 degrees. Interesting. Adjust the homepage settings and of course the system settings. There's also a built-in fan, which is kind of interesting because I'm using mine exclusively for retro stuff. I'm just leaving this closed. But there is also an auto option if you want this for stuff like Dreamcast or N64. If you're focused more on retro stuff like I am, just leave this unclosed and it shuts it off. There's also a factory reset option here, developer options. You can test the hardware here. If you're having issues with the joysticks, make sure to calibrate them here as well. And that's the last menu. So I guess the main reason that you buy this over the original is basically slightly better speed. This opens up things like Dreamcast, and it does run pretty good. The screen has some noticeable bezels, but for the price, it's hard to complain. The very first device that I bought in this hobby was the 351p. That barely played Dreamcast, and that had huge bezels. Let's try the first level of Sonic, just see how this goes. Big thing for me anyways that I'm drawing so far away from the experience of using this is the screen. It's just so dark. I guess I'm also really used to very bright screens. Best guess, this is somewhere between 250 and maybe 300 nits. Stuff like the Retroid Pocket 5 or the Odin 3, those are like 500 nits. And then if you get to something like the Magmi Pocket Max, that's like 700 I think. So it's just a very dark screen. However, I guess, like I said, it's just hard to complain for the price. $100 gets you something that's usable for Dreamcast at pretty consistent frame rates too. 60 FPS in one of the hardest games to run on Dreamcast. I'm not complaining. Pressing the menu button down here too opens up this menu, which is the quick options, so you can save state. If you're playing a boss and you're stuck, just save right before it, or just make incremental saves as you're playing it. There's also cheat options and retro achievements, and you can adjust the other settings on this menu too. Things like the controls or the video options, network options, everything is here. Pretty neat. By default, it's using the Vulkan options, but you can change this to OpenGL here too. That might give you slightly better performance in some games. By default, it's also using 640 by 480 for Dreamcast. Considering the screen size, you probably don't want to go more than 1.5x. I'm not really sure that this is going to work on this chip either, but I guess we can try it. So even at 1.5x, it's still at 60 FPS. For high-end systems like Dreamcast, it's not a bad option, especially if you're on a budget. For your older systems, it does give you a nice overlay. You can shut these off easy enough in the advanced menu. I could play this kind of stuff on here, but I think things like Game Boy Color and Game Boy in general are more suited to vertical handhelds. It sure comes with a lot of Game Boy Advance games, wow. This is also another really good system for this device in particular, Game Boy Advance. It fills out the screen pretty much fully, but you do get some little bezels. I think TrimUI would have made this much more compelling if the screen was just a little brighter. A lot of these games look really good on a vibrant panel. If you're someone like me that likes a bright and vibrant panel, I think the TrimUI Brick and the TrimUI Hammer have definitely better screens in that regard. But if you're just here to play the games and have fun and you got a budget and you want a horizontal device, then it's not a bad option. Let's try some Genesis on here. The original Sonic 1 for Sega Genesis was actually one of the only games that I finished on my other TrimUI Smart Pro. The reason that I like this for Sega Genesis games is this D-pad. It's a great D-pad for classic retro stuff. Just look at that, it's so cool. Not really sure what else we should talk about, but I think I should show you the speaker quality on this. I'm going to turn this all the way up to 20 because these speakers are not very loud. It also has a nice range too, so I think the 2 to 5 is really good for like night gaming. But yeah, let me shut off my noise cancellation and show you what these sound like. So in general, what do I think about the TrimUI Smart Pro S? It's good value, and in today's market, that's pretty hard to find. When I first got into this hobby, these $100 devices were nothing like this. If I could have had this when I started, I would have been ecstatic. I think you guys are genuinely lucky to be able to buy these kind of devices for $100. Do I think it's the best $100 device you can get? It's a tough call because at that price, you can get a better screen on the TrimUI Brick, or even the TrimUI Hammer for that matter. But you gotta remember, these are vertical handhelds. They're the only other cheap devices that I can recommend under $100. I like quality devices, and I don't recommend things often under $100. So do I think I can recommend this? I think so. The build quality is good, the controls are excellent, it comes in a lot of fun colors, and the value is just insane. The only negative to this entire experience, like I've been saying, is the screen quality. It's not a bad panel, but by no means is it a good one. But what do you think of the TrimUI Smart Pro S? I feel like I'm just rattling on at this point. It's a good device, and I think you'll be pretty happy with it. Just don't expect a top-tier screen on a device with this price range. Did you buy one, and what do you think of it so far? Remember to check out the link in the description below if you're interested in picking one up. But as always, thanks for hanging out. I'll catch you in the next one.